Thanks, Felicia. All right, how are you guys doing? Happy Friday, and thanks for joining us today. Today's class, it's a sort of a class. It's more of a question and answer discussion about designing jewelry for sale. So jewelry that you've created with the intention of selling, either for fundraisers or for your company, your business. So I've done a little bit about my background as a seller. I've been selling jewelry since 2007, and I was mainly selling on consignment and online for most of that time. I had a few opportunities to sell in person, but they were, just kind of one-off things. And then in 2018, I really tried, the in-person selling. And so the bulk of my experience selling in person is from those years, from 2018, 2019 or so. And so that's the bulk of the data I have to draw from to share with you guys today. And I have lots of examples. I'm surrounded by jewelry right now. And so I thought I would just get started by just jumping in. And I was going to mention also, let's see, if I missed any of my comments. I think I got it. But yeah,
Carmi.
Oh, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. It's Carmi from John Bead. I'm going to keep Danielle company throughout today's 1-hour workshop. We have a bunch of stuff we definitely want to share with you. And I want to let you know if you have some questions that are not being addressed, or you can definitely put them on the sidebar and I'll try to squeeze them in to what Danielle has already planned. So Danielle, when we were talking about this, we thought that the best thing would be to start at the beginning and for me to ask you, what type of jewelry do you sell online or at a craft or an art fair?
Gotcha. Yeah. So mostly I sell earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and I had a few anklets in there and occasionally some seed beaded rings. But those were the bulk of the items that I would put out for sale.
Okay, and would you say that you would make a statement style jewelry, simple styles, or a combination?
A combination. I tried all different kinds of jewelry because I just love to make different things. And so I experimented with a little bit of everything.
Okay, and do you incorporate beads in most of your projects?
Yeah, beads are used in almost every design.
And do you have a favorite?
Seed beads.
And of all the jewelry that you have made, do you now have a sense of what sells best when you're at a table?
I do, yeah, and it does vary, and from venue to venue, and also with season and whether or not it's online or in person. But I've definitely seen some trends, and I can say there's definitely a trend toward classic and minimalist styles.
Okay, well, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you share some of your pieces.
All right. Okay, so the first thing that I noticed, what I did is I went through my sales data, and I do offer the same things in person that I offered online. So it's pretty apples to apples comparison. And what jumped out was that earrings, just by number of sales, earrings outsold bracelets and necklaces. So earrings were the big seller. But you have to keep in mind that earrings were also one of the lower priced items that I offered on my table. So they did sell more frequently, but they did not make up the bulk of my sales dollars. So bracelets cost more. Even though I sold less of them, I made up about the same amount of dollars between those two. So that's just something to think about. And so online and in person, I did have different bestsellers. And that was something that I also noticed. So my best-selling online bracelets, like for all time, I sold leather wrap and Delica bracelets the most online. Some super duo bracelets, mainly the ones that have a single band that go around multiple times. And then herringbone cuff bracelets with like color blocking, either in a striped format or in kind of like a stacked color block format. Those were really, really well selling online. The thing that I sold the least, necklaces, that's lower by both the number of sales and by the amount of dollars in sales. So for some reason, just necklaces didn't move as much for me, which may not be true for everyone. But there was one exception to that, and it was in person. So in person, I experimented with a little concept for I called it the treasure bin, and I don't know really where I came up with that, but what it was essentially was I had a basket, and it was this basket of like mainly just single strand seed beaded jewelry. Occasionally I'd have a charm or a little gemstone, and I would fill that basket up with $5 and $10 items, and people would dig through it and find things. And one of the things that I sold a lot of were these necklaces. And I remember one time I was at a table and people kept coming by and they said, "Hey, are you the one with the seed chokers, the little seed bead chokers?" And people were asking for the beaded chokers. And I sold out of those that day and I hadn't made very many. And so I learned from that and I made a bunch more. I made a few versions. And so I was gonna demo this today. There's a bracelet version and a necklace version that a couple spins that you can put on it to make it really neat, and some new ideas that I had for how we could take those up a notch and make them even cooler. So that was definitely my number of sales, and even not too shabby by dollar amounts. So even though they were very inexpensive, they still made up a third of my sales a lot of the time. So I'd come home and I'd tally it up, and for every, Delica bracelet I sold, maybe I sold 5, 6, 7 of these. So those numbers evened up. I mean, it would at least cover the table cost that day or something like that. So it was just something to think about, even though it was super easy to make and it didn't seem like, it would grab people's attention. There was something about just digging through that basket. Everyone would come by and want to look in that basket. And so, just some of those things they were again, low dollar value items, but they made up a very large amount of my sales.
So Danielle, when you think about the items that you've designed to sell, did anything surprise you that you thought would do great that didn't do well?
Yeah, I had a lot of surprises like that. I guess one of the first ones I can pull out were, I was very excited about making statement earrings. And I love statement earrings, and I know they sell online, but less so in person. And so on the mat, what I have on my mat is a bunch of versions. And I have a lot of them because I really enjoyed making these. But I'll go ahead and hold up a few here. So with the tassels, these really big, beautiful statement earrings. Some of them have, like, for example, this one had just a regular tassel and it was Czech glass. And then this blue one had little matte lapis going all around it. And I thought, gosh, this will just last 2 minutes on my table. But not only did it not sell, but none of them did. I made a bunch. I loved making them. They were fun. I super enjoyed the colors and just the pop of color. I put these out in the summer.
Okay,
I maybe sold 2 pairs. That's it.
Danielle, I can see Sharon nodding along with me. Clearly, if we were at your table, right, Sharon, we would be buying those earrings. So I don't know why those didn't sell.
They're so cute.
They're adorable. Okay, so that I agree. I'm totally surprised though they didn't sell, but maybe it's, where you live or
yeah. And I'm baffled. I don't have a solid explanation for why, because they did really well on Instagram. They had a lot of, I did a tutorial on them and everything, and people really positively responded online, but the sales never reflected that, the positive social media feedback. So
okay,
kind of interesting.
And people would like to know, how much were you selling those statement earrings for?
They varied. So if they had like a gemstone like that one I showed, they were a little higher, but most of them were about $28.
That's still a great price.
Yeah, and they took me about, I got pretty fast toward the end there, but it still took me a good 30 minutes to make. And my cost margin on them was not as amazing as those little seed beater, these designs here, because there's a lot of components here going on, and so you're looking at something that cost me $7 to make, and I'm trying to sell it for 28. So my time's in there, and so yeah.
And Kelly's agreeing with you. She also had the same problem where she thought she was making some great jewelry and it also didn't sell.
For sure, we've all been there.
Okay, we'll let you show us something else.
Let's see. I can bring out. Do we want to stick with things that didn't sell well, or do you want to see some bestsellers?
You know what? Maybe a yin and the yang. Show us your bestseller so we
Bestsellers.
feel positive.
All right, so let's pull out. I'm thinking I might just start with that basket I was talking about. So it was a big basket and it had a lot of stuff in it. And some of them were necklaces. Not all of them were under 10, but most of them were. But things like seed beads with, this was bead soup. I just took all the leftover beads I had from various projects and just threw them on there. And then I was going to show how I packaged them. So you want to get your advertisements out there, even though these weren't high dollar items. When they sold, it was my chance to advertise. And this is one of my earlier versions. And all I had was this little card with my logo. But what I would do today, if I did this over again, is I would create a card, and you can just print this out on your printer, with just all your social hashtags, your website, your shop. And then at Michael's, they have these bags that I'm using here. I can show them to you really quick. They come in different sizes. There's a big one, there's littler ones. This is like the medium size. And so just take your card, put that in there. And then here's some that I made today, just to show these really moved. These moved a lot. These were super duos with 8 seed beads, size 8 seed beads. And then these little just seed bead stackers, that's 8s with 11s. Ones like this.
And Danielle, how much are those bracelets when you're selling them?
So some of them were 10 and some of them were 5, depending on what I used. So some of the seed beads that I used cost a little bit more, and I would have to kind of take that into account. Like, I think I have an example of one of those. Oh, here's one where I put crystals in it. See, there's little, and they're just glass crystals. I don't think I really use Swarovski, but they're little glass crystals I put in there. And I used a gold finding, and which is probably why I still have it, because the gold didn't do as well as silver.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too, because I thought, I mean, this one really caught my eye. I loved that. I used like a little Hamilton brush finish. These are at Michael's, these little Hamilton gold. And the little crystals, I think they might just be glass crystals. But yeah, and then those are Czech. They're 6.0s. But some of them were the fancy finish. And so I had, and they had the crystals, and this, you know, it had a little higher price point on my findings. So this one went to 10, but most of these would be like 5. And these cost me probably 30 cents to make. So $5 on something that cost you 30 cents to make.
And you're pretty quick putting those together.
Yeah, like I think maybe even 15 minutes, because I do it factory style. Like I'll make the strung part first and with the little clamshell finding on it, and I'll show you guys how I make these fast. And then at the end, I'll come back and put all the lobster claws on. And you can either make them adjustable or just put a various range of sizes and tell people what size it is on your stickers. You can just print these on your printer. They're just little 1-inch circle printer squares. And if it's adjustable, then you just say, hey, it's adjustable. And I noticed that people, when they're shopping with you in person, they really don't want to ask you what something costs. So if you can label your stuff, or if you can have it in a basket and that has a price on it, you'll get more people who will pick it up and look at it, versus they're kind of scared like to pick it up because they think it might be too pricey, and if they pick it up that they have to buy it, or, you know, people are shy. People are really shy, and so it really helps to.
Danielle, that's a great tip about making sure that it's easy for people to see the price. And Kathy asked on the sidebar, and I think you answered it, how many inches were your average seed bead bracelets? So you also put the size on, but do you have an average? Do you make them all about 6.5 or?
So if you're making it adjustable, go ahead and make it 6.5. So it will fit like a teen, and then it can, you know, it'll fit most people if you put a little chain on it. But you can also just make them 7 inches. And then what you can do is have handy at your table some chain and jump rings. And then if somebody loves it, they love it, and it's 7 inches and they need it to be 7.5, you can just very quickly put a jump ring on it and a chain and offer that to the, and you can, I also, I forgot to write this down, but I used to sell extenders because I was doing one for someone, and somebody came by and they said, well, can I just buy the extender? I want that extender so I can go home, make something at home fit me. Oh. And so I sold a bunch of those one day for like I think I charged $5 for them or something. Put a little crystal at the bottom or a charm, and
That's a great idea.
yeah, I'd forgotten about that. I guess you guys reminded me.
That is awesome. And people do also on the sidebar, Michelle just said, it's great to sell how you would shop. People don't like to ask for the price, so they do appreciate that tip.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. Definitely noticed that.
So Danielle, just looking at them now, a few of us think that your statement earrings should have been sold. And what are you going to do with them now? You have inventory. What will you do with them? Will you try again?
I think I might, because definitely, in person selling is so variable, and it's really venue dependent. The places where I was selling definitely trended toward minimalist styles, but maybe I wasn't at the right venue. Maybe a new venue, those would just be the thing. Everyone, hey, where's that tassel earring?
Okay.
But if I try it for another year and it doesn't work, then I might clearance them or donate them to a charity.
That's a great idea. So now, having seen your bestseller, would you like to show another bestseller, or would you like to show us how you make your bestseller?
Oh, I can do either. What do you think is a good? I have tons of jewelry to show, and I can also show the demo.
You know what, Danielle? Let's see some more jewelry. It's like eye candy for us.
It's fun. I actually had a really great time going through it myself. So we just did a bestseller. Let's do a not so bestseller. Where did I have those? I have those in here. So I keep these. These are the scrapbook cases from Michael's. And if you're looking for a really nice place to store your jewelry between shows, or like for the entire year of 2020, you can put them in plastic bags and then store them in here. And I have them sorted. So what I noticed is price point made a really huge difference. And so here's some things that did not sell as well. Price point and complexity, I guess I'll say. So let's go with those. I do have one other one to. So what I noticed is that the kind of flashy stuff, like people would look at it. I'm just putting the necklace here. I love this necklace. Everyone would look at this necklace and no one ever bought it. And it was on my table for a very long time. It was too expensive. It's real Swarovski. It has some kind of expensive Czech glass. And then this was a custom, another artist made this. I bought it on Etsy from another artist that does ceramic art, and I love her work. And so I had to price that in. And then that's a Swarovski crystal at the bottom too. And everyone loved it. Everyone looked at it. No one bought it because it was priced too high. And that's my theory, but it's also super unusual and kind of stand out. Another example of something that just might've been too elaborate. I love this one. These are the size 11 Czech soul gel with fire polished beads and little pearls, little Czech glass pearls in there. I had to price this up because it had a really cool lampwork bead on it. I did my own kind of unique closure, but if I'm super honest with myself about this, it's just a little weird, it's like I might need to redo it, but it closes in the front, and maybe that was something that just people didn't like, because everyone would look at it and they're, oh wow, that's so cool, but no one ever never moved.
So Danielle, inquiring minds would like to know, what did you price both of these at?
This one, I started it with 75. I took it down to nearly 50 and it still didn't move. This one I had up over 100, and then I lowered it to about 60 or so. And at that point I decided I'm going to redo it because I like it more than selling it for nearly what I paid for materials. So I decided to keep it.
And Danielle, how many hours of beadwork is that?
Oh gosh, this was days. This took me days.
So
I enjoyed making it, but
okay, well, yeah. Just so you know, Barbara is on the sidebar and she would have bought either one. And
oh, thank you.
You actually do have a question, like how do you price it? How do you know how to price it? Basically,
I do have a formula. I have a formula that ends up being, and it's rough. It's a rough estimate. I do have to tweak it sometimes. It's less accurate when you have expensive components feeding in, but it's roughly 7 times my material cost. Just very, very rough estimate.
Your pricing strategy is 7 times your materials cost.
I try to do that. I don't always make it, because if you bring in gemstones, it's going to really throw off you're not going to sell that work because it's going to throw your numbers off. So sometimes when I price in gemstones, I do that flat, and then I'll add the 7 times what the other stuff cost.
And what about your time?
I'm getting better about that now. I have a margin, so I'll take that 7 times material, try to get that material number really, really low down. And then I have a, what's it called? A percentage that I add to different types of jewelry based on how long they typically take me. But it took me a really long time to build that tool. I've been working on that tool for 5 years, and it's really specific to me and what I do and how I source and things like that. So it's something that you can develop over time, but it might not be useful to share it just raw, because it wouldn't be applicable. It would just be too different, or it also might not make any sense to anyone else.
Okay. So Danielle, I'll let you pull a few more pieces out, because I think we're all enjoying seeing your work. I'm going to ask the boring question. While you're at a table, and of course, while you're online, you're having to charge sales tax.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The cool thing is, well, at least for what I was using a Square reader, and Square, the app, will do the tax for you. You need to tell it where you are, and then it will calculate that, and it'll tell you what to collect. But you'll have to go and submit that yourself quarterly.
Okay.
To your Department of Revenue up here in Washington. That's what it's called.
That's great. And Danielle, have you ever given out a coupon?
Not in person, but online, I definitely do. Absolutely.
Okay, but definitely pull out something. I'll let you pull a piece out. Ooh.
It's another labor of love that got a lot of attention, but again, just didn't sell. And number one, it's not adjustable. And it's just kind of unusual, right? I was playing, I wanted to see, can I make something like this? And so I did. And it's just one of those things that I think would have that one special person, right? That one special person that will walk in and be like, oh, I love this, but it's just not going to sell to just anybody, right? Because it's just really unusual. So my unusual pieces didn't move. And then last but not least, things with high price points. And I had to price these up because a lot of them have more expensive seed beads or gemstones, or some kind of high-end Czech glass. I was originally selling these at about $42. I don't think I sold even maybe 2 of them, but I love this stitch. How gorgeous is that? That's flat spiral rope. We did that. It was the very first class we did for Michael's, but we did it with all seed beads. But some of them were like, see, this one has gemstones in it. They didn't move. I don't know why. I love them. They're great. I made so many colors, but I got the joy out of making them. So there's something there. You can put different kind of clasps on them.
Yes, and as Cindy is saying on the sidebar, some pieces are just works of art. The right person is going to come around.
Yeah.
And
yeah, totally.
Danielle, is it worth it to you to put these higher end one-of-a-kind pieces on Etsy?
Sometimes I give them a chance. So Etsy has a option when you load a listing to put it in as automatically renewing or manual renewing, meaning it's going to expire off your page and they won't charge you repeatedly for renewing it. I do that for finished jewelry now. So if I'm going to list something finished, I'll list it for their, I believe it's either 60 or 90 days. And then if it expires off without selling, then I don't put it back up.
That's a great tip. Thank you.
Let's see. Another bestseller? You can move on to.
I don't think you have too many duds.
I do have quite a few, but but they weren't, I wouldn't call them duds. That's the one thing I was thinking, is like, my terminology I feel is important. They weren't necessarily duds just because they didn't sell, because they're still amazing. The materials are amazing. The workmanship is good. I got joy out of making them. So that's like where, when I think about like, how would I describe, I really labored on this one. Like, how am I going to describe the failure of not selling it? And like, what if it's not really a failure? What if it's just data, right? What if we just say, now I know what moves in this venue, in this location, and what doesn't in these other locations. And so it's, at the end of the day, like if I was to sit down and say, hey, we're going to do a class on this technique, everyone would be excited because we like making them. We like the materials. We have a good time making them. And I feel like there's some value there that is important.
Perfect.
it makes a difference, right? And it's kind of, so something that is easy to make are these like these bands. And I'm not the only person who makes these. These are really popular. You'll see them on Instagram a lot, but you can make them go around and around. They don't take long to make. And I've been selling them for a really long time and people do like them. You can give them different kinds of looks by using different colors and putting charms on them. You can make them look edgy or feminine or spring or fall. And so those are something that did well. And of course, Delica bracelets did really well online and they did okay in person. I mean, like not amazing in person, but the price points were a little high on some of them.
Those are beautiful.
I really love making these and I enjoy it and they do sell. So they just don't sell as often as other things. They did move. Let's see, what else? Oh, ropes. This is Kumihimo. People really like these. Those are easy to make. They're just seed beads and some cord. And then let's see what else I've got to show. Things like this with edging. Those usually do really, really well too. Like cuffs.
Danielle, people are noticing your card stock. Is that a punch or do you make those manually for the bracelets to be wrapped on?
So this is the, oops, there we go. Sorry about that. This is from Michael's. It's craft paper. And I do have a sliding cutter that I use to cut them. So there's two different ways. I have a friend who makes these for me. And she does them on her Cricut. She cuts them on her Cricut and does this lettering. But if you didn't want to go the Cricut route and you just wanted to have something similar, in a pinch, I've made my own using this. And I'm thinking about getting a stamp with my logo made, which getting a stamp with your logo made is pretty inexpensive and you'll use it over and over and over again. And you could just stamp it and then grab like, there's two different versions at Michael's. There's this one, which is a punch. And then there's a smaller one. This is the bead landing one that has just, you know, 2 holes. So this one's good for necklaces too. So you can like punch one of these and then the necklace can go through it. So that's another really great way to do your designs. And of course I showed those plastic bags. They come in so many sizes. If you're looking for them, you'll have to go look where the like wedding card stock is for like, you know, folded greeting card kind of stuff. It's in that aisle, but they have just so many of these.
Thank you for those tips, Danielle. Appreciate it. The cards.
Yeah. Oh gosh, so let's see, what else could I show you guys? I've got, how about a best-selling earring? Because I haven't shown a good earring yet. I was thinking we might do this as a class if people like it. These sold a lot.
Oh.
And they're not expensive. They're just seed beads. You can charm them if you want, or you don't have to. People like that look. It was popular in 2018, 2019. These are the only 2 I have left. Probably because yellow wasn't as popular then because Pantone had not helped me out yet. And then this one is really earth tony and it had a charm. The charm did not do as well as the no charm.
No charm.
Yeah.
And Danielle, have you ever dealt with return policy or someone returning jewelry to you?
Yeah, online. So I used to let them ship it back to me, but now I just make a new one and ship it out and they can keep it and gift it to somebody. But because it's just kind of a hassle you'll end up paying for that shipping to return it and it costs you more. So it's kind of a wash. But in person, I don't think I've gotten an in-person return, come to think of it. And they do leave with my card, so they could get a hold of me if they wanted to. And that was something, if I forgot to mention it earlier, that when I was selling these little CBD ones, I learned like later to put these in there. I would just slide a business card in there, but you could just print out a little square so people can find you later because they'll go home wearing this and their friends will ask for one. And then while they're at it, they might go look at your site and then they'll be sitting at home in the comfort of their home thinking about what they like to wear. They'll see your stuff and you'll get orders. You'll get orders that way.
Danielle, I think you've piqued everyone's interest in your best-selling earrings that you just showed.
And these, do we want to do a class on that? It was super easy.
You know what? Because of the plastic, would you mind taking a pair out?
Yeah. These little stars on the back were my reference for a sale that I did. Oh, and these are at Michael's too. You want to grab these little stoppers so that, because they'll be handled a lot and they might come loose. But yeah, so these cost me about $1.20 to make, only because I put, actually, I think these might have been a little less. These were the ones that were about $1.20 because I put a little melon on there and I used, you know, jump ring bindings, all that stuff. This one might have been less.
We're getting yes to please make this a class question.
Yeah, we should do that. It was fun too. It's peaceful. It's this little, you start with 3 size 8 seed beads in center. You can make them with 11s too. And there's,
Danielle, will you lift it up so we could just see it a little closer?
oh yeah, sorry about that. This color is hard to see. Why don't I open the other one? That yellow is very bright, and plus it's got like a lemon citrus in there.
And Danielle, just because this is the class, what would you have charged for those earrings?
And they sold for that. People paid $18 for those, no problem. And I needed to make sure I had change because everyone's going to hand you a 20. Just make sure you have ones.
Of course, because I think it's a universal thing. People do have a hard time pricing, especially pricing their jewelry on Etsy.
It's hard. It's hard, especially if you know how much time you put into it and you really want to price it what it's worth. And that was a good margin on those. I like those. Yeah. So how are we doing for?
I think it would be lovely now because it's a Q&A class, but we're going to one up it by actually making it useful. So I think if you have the moment to now pull out the demo, I would love everyone to see how quickly you do make your best-selling pieces.
Yeah, let me grab some materials. So you can use what you have. That's the first thing that I would definitely say, because you don't want to go out and buy a bunch of stuff, but we all have bead stringing wire sitting around. And if you're going to make the little seed beaded ones, 19 strand is a great way to go because it's flexible enough, but it's the lower price point than the 49. But you could also use silk cord and other types of bead stringing material. Would be fine. And then get some crimps. Now I'm using number 1. And I bought them in this pack because the way we're going to make these, you don't need to worry about what color this is. So this is just was the most economical way for me to get a bunch of size 1 crimps. So I don't care what color because I'm going to hide them in here. These are clamshell crimp bead covers, and they are indispensable. You get a ton of them for a very low price point. So that's another great way. These come in pro packs from Michael's, so you can get your findings. And there's also crimps in there. So if you wanted to use those crimps, you'll run out eventually, but either would be fine. You can use either. And then of course, just want to make sure you have some jump rings because the pro pack that I had didn't have jump rings in it. So I grabbed a pack of those. And switching over to the beads, of course, you'll want to have, you can use any beads you want. That's the best part of this whole thing is whatever beads you'd like to use, you can just use them. But so I use my bead mat as a way to measure for this. Not quite the whole thing, but maybe like 3/4 of it. If you're making a bracelet. Now, if you're making a necklace, what I did for my necklaces, I varied them up. I made some of them 15 inches and some of them 18 inches. And then the ones that I made 15 always had a chain to make them adjustable. But let me see if I can grab that other one here. But yeah, so somewhere between 15 and 18 inches. I'm going to do a bracelet for the demo. But if you're doing the necklace, you want to cut a little more. And then, of course, for tools, you're going to need your regular tool set. These are just my sparkle flush cutters. And I'm going to get my chain nose. And then I'm going to open some of these here.
Danielle, when you're getting ready for, say you had an event, if we were all open again and you knew you had an event in 3 weeks, would you be setting up a production and making 20 bracelets all on the same day? Would you be setting yourself up to do so that you're just making one today to show us, but ordinarily you don't just make one of anything?
Right. Yeah, no, I would make a bunch. I'd make at least a dozen. And oh, so for colors, definitely the most popular colors, purple and blue. If you want to have lots of purple and blue out, those are the ones that really moved. And then things like silver, like the one that I just had up here. I might have put it away, but it was a silver colored seed bead, which is our Czech seed beads here with a contrasting color. So silver did really well. And yeah, those are the way I would do.
Danielle,
Like,
I noticed in all the findings that you pulled out for this demo, you pulled out all silver.
yeah, because if you're gonna buy them in bulk in the pro packs, you get a really great deal that way. And you're gonna want to stick with one finish, because if you go with all the different finishes, you're just gonna have a little bit higher cost there. So it's just something to think about.
Is a silver, is it your favorite finish for findings?
No.
No?
But I'm not representative of what sells, evidently. Yeah, it's and I saw the question pop up there about sterling. I wouldn't do sterling for these because I want them to be affordable. But yeah, I mean, definitely the look of sterling is definitely popular. The sterlings and argeniums and rhodium finishes. Love that look.
Yes, because Kelly's mentioning she really does love copper. So
I love copper. That's my favorite. Yeah, if everything in the world could be copper, I'd be like, woohoo.
And Cindy is also agreeing with you that purple earrings sell. And she made one pair, and that day she could have sold 10 of them.
It's always the way. Yeah. And then you're like, but look at this gorgeous one I have in this other color. And you're like, but purple's the thing. I didn't show these yet, but fringe earrings were another popular one. Purple, always purple. Put some purple in there. Just don't even know why purple is so popular. Turquoise is also, but if you put turquoise with purple, that's even better.
And do you have any issues with your metals tarnishing?
So like, for example, on the little seed bead bracelets, not, I mean, yeah, if you get them wet, I don't really get my jewelry wet. So I don't have, as like, I'll take them off if I'm doing dishes. But I'm not going to say they won't, but I don't really see them tarnishing too badly. I think they actually hold up pretty well. Real silver tarnishes quite quickly.
I know the real silver is an issue. So Danielle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop talking and interrupting you.
That's okay.
So that you have a chance to just show us truly how quickly you can make a finished piece that you'll sell.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Let's make one. So, you guys, I'm going to do my crimps wrong, but don't worry. It's okay. I'm just taking this #1 crimp and I'm just flattening it with my chain pliers. And make sure it's good and flat, but don't overdo it. Just give it enough that it's like that. And then I'm going to trim. Where's my flush cutters? I'm trim this over here. And you don't need to give yourself room to wrap it back through a crimp, so you don't waste any wire this way, which is really nice. You just cut pretty much almost the exact length you need. And then I'm just going to put this away really quick. And then get your clamshells. And this is a really cool pack of clamshells. I've been using this for a while and I haven't replaced it yet. But you can, put it back together afterward, just kind of nice. And the cool thing about that, it's going to hide this and you won't see it anymore. And so for the starting side, bring it through the open part of your clamshell. And you'll get so fast at this that you can make these in like literally just minutes. And then grab any color seed beads and any size seed beads you want. I've been showing a bunch of size 8 ones. So these are the size 8s. And then I also showed one that had 11s in between 8s. But I was thinking for right now, like I could just pull a color of, I don't know, let's do a blue with a little spacer. Or would a color that's easier to see get a little better maybe. I forget I'm on camera sometimes. Oh, this is a really cool color. It's like a turquoise green. Let's use this one. And then I'm going to grab a size 11 seed bead. And so for that color, I would want to go with silver and turquoise. Be really pretty. And I'm really just winging it right now with what I want to do. It's all of them did well. It didn't seem to matter what size seed bead I used, but I figured the 6s would go a little faster. How cute. And I'm just gonna really quickly string this. And you can play some music, you know, play like a podcast or something entertaining. And I tried teaching my boys to string like this. Yeah, we need a few more years there, but eventually I'll get them on board.
Danielle, someone was asking if you ever use the bead stringing tool, but because you're using the wire, you don't have to.
Oh yeah, so are you meaning like the bead spinner?
Probably.
I love the bead spinner. You can make this without, if you didn't want to use this wire, you could take like silk cord and use that. You could use monofilament. We did a class, it was the multi-layer necklace class, where we actually made something very similar to this with monofilament and the same clamshells. And that works great too. Anything you've got. That's one of the things is like, look at your bead stash and particularly your findings and your stringing materials. And what do you have that's not being used that you could turn into something like this?
Because of course, a lot of people have the elastic cord.
Elastic cord does great. It does really well. I have one of those to show. I sold a bunch of these. That's just elastic cord in there. And there's a trend for metal beads, which I was going to talk about in a few minutes. There's little metal beads in there. I've got some. I'll finish this and then I'll get totally sidetracked showing you guys that. I have a hard time narrowing down ideas. I get 100 miles a minute and then I just start going. And it really helps if, you know, if I just write stuff down, because otherwise, oh, wow. That takes a minute, but not too long. I do love the bead spinner. The bead spinner is really fun. And yeah, you can absolutely use that. I haven't tried this yet, but would it work with bead stringing wire to use the bead spinner? You just kind of hold it in there. I'm almost there. I do have a tape measure handy, but it's buried under a lot of stuff right now. Oh no, here it is. I got it. Let's bring that out. Okay. Well, again, I'm going to take this to 6.5 if I can, and go from roughly right there, a little further. So see, I'm not going to waste any wire because the cost driver in this design, although it's not much, but it's still, it's the one thing that I run out of first. And the next one I run out of first. Next is lobster clasps. So I have to go get more of those. Almost there. So what I'd rather be, oh, go ahead.
I didn't put a clock on you, but if I hadn't interrupted you, I'm pretty sure you would have finished this in about 6 minutes.
Yeah. And then once you get going, and also right now I'm working with my phone kind of in the way of my site. And so when I'm working kind of just at speed, it's a little bit faster. And I just start grabbing those. I'll put a few more on and then I think we're good. All right. So once you've got this much on, and you want to leave some air, for sure, leave some air. So here's the other clamshell finding that I've got. I'm going to go the opposite direction through this one now. Before we went through this side, the open side, and we're going to go through the back. Bring that down. Here's my other crimp bead. So that's my other #1 crimp bead. Bring that down. And definitely don't want to go too tight here because you want it to flow. So sometimes what I do, and this is the only part that's even remotely tricky, is just kind of come down from the top and grip it. And then just give it a good pinch. I'm gonna take a quick look and make sure I got it because it's still moving.
So you're flattening your crimp.
I'm flattening it. Don't tell Meredith.
Without using the crimp tool.
Yeah, because you can't get your crimp tool in there.
No.
Yeah, it would be really hard to do.
You're using a clamshell instead of a wire guardian.
Yeah, it's so the wire guardians, they're amazing, but then you're gonna see your crimp on the other side of it and you're gonna have to fold your wire through it, hide your tail in here somewhere. People are always like, there's a tail showing. Because no matter what you do, you just can't seem to get that to hide. And when you trim this end, just touch the clamshell while you're doing it. Don't cut the clamshell, but just you want the end of that tail to hide in there.
Danielle, everyone who knows Meredith is also laughing and will not be sharing your extra tip with her.
Don't tell her, don't tell her. I think she'll be cool with it, but
I think I had no idea how you could make it this quick, and now I understand. You're showing us how to do a finish that's much faster than using guardian and trying to do all the extra work. You're just finishing it so quick.
And I could have given that a little more air, but it's still got some flow to it. So what I did there, I just closed the Pac-Mans, just closed them up. And then you want to get your round nose pliers. Oops, sorry, that's these guys. And then these clamshell findings have this little hoop at the end. Not all of them have that hoop. Some of them will have just like a built-in, like already done loop. But if it's open like this, you just fold it closed. And then I'm sliding down, down, down to get that to seal. The same thing on the other side. Get that to seal there. These are strong. So these clamshell ones, and these are the ones that are in the like materials list for class, but they incredibly strong. They're not flimsy tabs here. They hold. And so as far as like where to get your lobster clasps and jump rings, that's totally up to you. Whatever you like. And these again were a ProPack purchase where it comes with just like a bunch of those. I have some already open jump rings floating around. Yep, they're right here. That package broke, so I've just got those. And of course, if you have that chain handy, you can use that chain. Any kind of chain from like the chain wall would be great. And you can make it adjustable that way if you wanted to. Get that on there. I'm just using some square nose and some bent nose. That's kind of my go-to thing for jump rings. That's a really clean finish. See, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's just really nice. And if you wanted to take this up a notch, I didn't try this in person selling yet, but I did notice that people like to personalize. And what if, this is an untried idea, I'm just sharing it. What if you offered people some little charm options? These are affordable and not everybody would want one, but you could say, hey, for $1, I'll throw a charm on it and let them choose their charm, whatever they like.
I like that idea.
And some people will say, oh no, thanks, I just want it like that. And other people might say, yeah, throw a cute little key on it.
And that'll keep you busy at the table too.
Yeah, exactly. And then people get interested in seeing how you do it, and they want to watch you make the jewelry. And I really liked the idea of putting like one of these little crystals on it. And they come with a jump ring, which is handy.
Danielle, when you make your bracelets adjustable, how long of a chain do you add?
Oh, so I'll add 1 inch.
1 inch. Okay, thank you.
And
then, do you have a preference for lobster versus toggle?
For me, I like toggles when I'm wearing jewelry. I really love a toggle clasp, but they don't sell as well as lobster claw. And I have no idea why. I love toggles because they can be really ornate and pretty. And they can add like a lot of decoration to your piece. When I do sell toggles, it's almost always online.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure, yeah. So how cute is that? I mean, it's just a little like that little gem on there. I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but it's really sparkly. And that does not add very much cost to, you know, if I charged like $1 to throw a charm on it, or even if I just priced it a little higher, it didn't add very much cost to my design.
Danielle, would you have any idea how many of these bracelets you've made?
A lot. Because there's one day where I sat there and I made like 30. I just made 30 of them and I came home with 2. I mean, yeah, they sell. They really do, because they're just simple. There's and no one has to really think very hard. Like if somebody was out like with the intention of shopping for jewelry, and I think that's why my online special things go better online than in person, is because people didn't wake up that day and go with the intention of shopping for jewelry. Certainly not to the tune of $40 or $50. But if they're walking around, you know, they're doing whatever they came out to do. Maybe they're just there to buy some fresh fruit, right? It's like farmer's market. But they see these little things and like, oh, well, that's only $5. I would love to throw that on. And then someone asks them, that's cute. Is that here? Is somebody here selling that? And then they come back and they look at your table, and all those people are going to leave with your business card. And then they all know about you now. And now your followers on social media, maybe at least half those people will go click and follow you because they own a piece of your jewelry and you're local. And it's just an extra marketing. Yeah.
Danielle, are there different size clamshells?
I have not seen different sizes, but I've seen different finishes at Michael's.
Okay.
Well, actually, I've seen different finishes on the market, but at Michael's, they have 2 sizes. I'm sorry, 2 finishes in the same size. Forgive me, my words are wrong. They have this in gold. But now online, I mean, you name it, findings exist everywhere in all different shapes. Like I think even at John Bead, we have a very large version of clamshells that I use for very large knotting cord, which is really fun.
Okay, so Danielle, today we're talking about bestsellers and some things that didn't sell for you. Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you that now that you've been doing it, what is your takeaway on your favorite thing to sell? If you were going to leave your audience today with your best recommendation.
Oh gosh, so my favorite thing to sell, of course, would be my favorite thing to make, because I want to enjoy how I'm spending my time. I really love making those little delicate bracelets. I think I either loom them or peyote stitch them. I love them. And I have a lot of patterns. I have a lot of free patterns out there. And I do my closures so many different ways. Sometimes I'll put like a leather adjustable closure, or you can even just put a loop with a lobster claw. Those are my favorite thing to make. I just love to sit and stitch patterns.
And are they all your own patterns, Danielle?
Most of them are. Definitely in my peyote stitch ones, they are. I used to buy a lot of loom patterns, and then you just reminded me, I almost forgot to show another one of my best sellers. So just gonna clear them out really quick. Oh gosh, I sold so many of these. It's not my pattern. This is a Deborah Birdie pattern. She's from Around the Beading Table, and she makes amazing seed bead patterns. But all of these beads are available at Michael's. They are super duos, and our size 8 seed beads are on there. And then you can go and find the 2-hole Czech tiles. You can find those on the strand wall. And this is her pattern. And she's got a few versions of it that use, you know, different size beads and things like that. But wow, I sold a lot of these, and they're so cute.
That looks gorgeous.
Yeah, those are the fun ideas. So definitely not all my own patterns. I definitely, you of course, you want to ask permission from the person you purchased the pattern from. If it's my pattern, absolutely use it. No worries. It's no problem. Ask the person you bought your pattern from, just double check before you sell it. And yeah, and then you're golden then. Let's see, how are we doing on time? Is there anything else I can show?
Good. You've got about 2 minutes left. So, I've asked you all the questions that, we talked about earlier today. And, I guess soon craft sales will be back. Danielle, do you think you'll be doing tables again or joining art events?
I would like to. I definitely want to. I invested in some displays, and actually, this is one I got at Michael's last week. That is so pretty that you can hang your necklaces and your seed beads from. Like if they were all kind of displayed like that, you could just have a little sign that says 10. Or so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Also, just once I tried it one time and I realized it's not scary, and you actually get to meet people and talk to people, and so yeah, for sure. The short answer is yeah.
That's good to know. And your treasure bin concept,
Mhm.
is there any way to replicate that online?
I need to figure it out and see if it does well. I haven't been able to figure out how to do that because it would basically just look like a bunch of listings for $5 and $10, and it would be not really so online things have to stand out visually in a photo, and the things that stand out in photos visually online have pops of color going, they're like, so, and I've become kind of expert on making things pop online, but the little things like this, they're hard to make dramatic. But if you did maybe if you did like a really awesome flat lay of everything just piled on top of each other, because on Instagram, multiple pieces of jewelry in a photo do a lot better for engagement than a single piece of jewelry. If you put a single piece of jewelry, make it up close in your photo. But yeah, a flat lay, all of them out, $10, and then you'd have to do like a drop list in your listing. But I think in Etsy, there's a limit of like 10 variations. So you have to make like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 10 listings.
Perfect.
It's technically challenging. I'd have to figure out how to do it.
Danielle, I'm going to let you see the sidebar a little bit. Many thanks for a great class and for being inspiring. You definitely, you share your secrets. A lot of people aren't necessarily going to give them up. And we really appreciate you sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly of designing. And I think the takeaway for myself today is the important thing with beading is to just bead what you love. And hopefully, try not to always think of the sale. Think about, did it give you joy when you were making it? And I think that's what everyone's getting from you. They love your classes. They love your teaching. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone next Friday, and you can show them yet another great thing to sell.
Oh yeah. Next Friday we have our, we're going to do a summer pendant class, ladder stitch with super does. So lots of fun. All right. Well, hey, thank you guys for being here. I hope that you guys had I had fun chatting and showing you jewelry. So looking forward to seeing you next week, and have a great weekend.